I want you to understand that in and of ourselves, we all can fall to the temptation and the wiles of Satan. There was a man named Samson in the Old Testament. He was the strongest human being to ever have lived in a physical sense. He took, at one point in his life, the jawbone of a beast of burden. He used it as an axe. He wielded it. He went into the camp of the enemies of Israel, and he slew, using that jawbone as an axe, he slew hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Philistines. At his death, as he was between two pillars, he pushed outward on the pillars with strength that God had given him, and the Colosseum in which he was being used as a public spectacle of shame collapsed, and he killed in his death more Philistines than he had slew in his life. He was a man of war. He was a man of battle. But that strong man, Samson, fell to the temptation of Satan. He let his guard down. He succumbed to the temptation, and Satan destroyed his life. The strongest man that has ever lived fell to the temptation of Satan. A man that we know is a man after God's own heart, David, the sweet psalmist of Israel, lowered his guard in a moment of weakness and committed adultery with another man's wife, and to cover it up, sent that man, Uriah, to his death to take that man's wife, Bathsheba, to be his own wife. So the strongest man that has ever lived, the man after God's own heart, and you read about Solomon in the Old Testament, a man who was the wisest man who ever lived. And near the end of his life, throughout his life, Solomon took 700 wives being king of Israel. It was a status symbol. And these women, he loved them, and they were princesses of other nations. And they led his heart astray. And he began to worship and serve the gods of the other nations, began to worship in the groves, describes the worship of a goddess named Ashtoreth. He began to worship in the groves, and his heart departed from serving the Lord his God. You have the strongest man, the most favored man, and the wisest man, and all three of those men failed. They let their guard down, and in their own strength, Satan destroyed them. And there were lasting consequences for themselves, for their families, and even for nations in the earth. So as Paul says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, the first thing that we want to point out is that this is strength that is not in and of yourself. This isn't strength, brother, just be strong, look within yourself. You hear that a lot today? Well, I just looked within myself and I found the strength to overcome. The strength that I have will not overcome in this warfare. I am not valiant to fight by my own strength in and of myself, but by faith through Christ, I'm valiant to fight. I can stand and withstand and last and be victorious in battle against the wicked one.